We're going to hear from 4 of our members, and they're going to not only talk a little bit, but show us how to do something. The first member is Dave Patterson, who is joining us on Zoom. I hope he's going to be a little bigger. No? Yes. And Dave is the Director of Sales Operations at Waste Bits, a digital company serving the waste industry. And Dave is going to show all of us how to do something we've always wanted to know. Go on Slack. What is Slack? Okay, Dave, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Maybe give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me okay. Okay, thank you. I'm going to start my timer here so I don't go super long. Yeah, I work for a software company. We are a remote first company. We were that way even before the pandemic. And one of the ways that we've really been able to kind of survive and stay productive is to use an application called Slack. And it's very much like instant messaging, but with a lot of other features baked in. And I thought it would be worthwhile to very briefly take you through a sign-up process, but then also potentially introduce a solution for this group. And so I'll try to go quickly here, but one of the things that I want to kind of stress is that it is totally free. And so that's, I think, a nice aspect of this as well. So I'm going to begin sharing my screen. I won't spend much time on this at all because it's maybe the least exciting part of what I'm going to show you today, but sign up is very easy. And like I said, it's free. Slack.com, click on getting started. You'll click create a workspace. Workspace is just the name that they give for the place that your conversations will be happening. But essentially what you're going to be able to do is, instead of maybe what you're using today, whether personally or in business, like group chat, this would be a potential replacement for that. And it has, like I said, a lot of extra features built in. And so to kind of illustrate that, I built one for the Kent Rotary Club. And we of course don't have to use this. There's no cost to it, and so it could just go away. But if I realize this is on a big screen far away from people, but you can create channels. And so instead of just your great big group chat with your family or your friends or whatever, you can kind of theme your conversations. And so if you're planning an upcoming trip, or in this case, I created an events channel. So all of the things related to the Kent Rotary Club, we could kind of post those things here and just kind of illustrate that. I went through our website and added a link to the calendar and a link to kind of an upcoming board meeting. It was the next thing on the event. I created a channel for Myers Musings, and so President Kathy, you could post here as well, and that would be a convenient place for people to come and see those things. Under the weekly meetings, I threw the Zoom information on there again, so that it's all kind of consolidated in one place. And then kind of some other ones, service projects, whatever we have kind of going on there. And so, yeah, the long and short of it is that this is a really dynamic tool. You can make phone calls with it. You can do the equivalent of like a Zoom share with it, and it's totally free. There are all kinds of administrative settings too. And so if this did become popular, whether this is something that we're using or something that you're just kind of hosting with your family, I know that we leverage this a lot during the really lockdown period of time within my family. And it's also a great way to keep in touch with friends. And again, totally free. And so with that, I'll stop. Anybody with questions on this, feel free to email me. And President Kathy, if this does seem like something that we want to run with, we can have a chat about that and talk about how to get folks into the application. Thanks.
Dave, thank you. And Dave stuck to the 3 minutes, which is also quite something. And kudos to Dave. So it's all about Slack, baby, right? We're going to think about that. I love that idea. Okay, our second speaker is our own Dr. Steve Dennis, who is the chair of the Department of Finance at Kent State University. And we all know a little bit about Steve, but today, Steve, I think, is going to explain the metaverse.
Hopefully. All right, Mary Beth, thanks. Dave, do you have those slides up? Okay. So derisively, I've called this how to turn $1 million in real estate into $25 in cash. Got to take the mask off, okay? Okay. So there used to be an old Steve Martin joke that went, I can teach you how to turn $1 million in real estate into $25 in cash. And I think this investment vehicle that I'm about to describe to you is a good way to do that, okay? A good way to lose your money, okay? So next slide, Dave. So what we got is this thing called the metaverse, okay? Still more? Can you hear me better? Perfect. All right, I'll keep it up close. All right. Next slide, Dave. So we got this thing called the metaverse. And by the way, I'm quoting, I was reading an article when Mary Beth sent me the email about this. So the article is up there at the top, but the metaverse contains this digital land market, which is different from the physical land market. And a lot of people are buying this digital land market, okay? And as derisive as I can be, as dismissive as I could possibly be, think about Donkey Kong and the avatars that are in Donkey Kong. What this is doing is selling a street corner in Donkey Kong, okay? Now, by the way, our young people may know this a lot better than me, and they may understand this a lot better than me. But as I understand this is the street corner in Donkey Kong. There is a metaverse. So there is a non-physical digital area that has land, okay? And you can buy that street corner. And people have been buying these street corners for $2.5 million, $4 million. A young person, go ahead, Dave, if you want to flip through it. But somebody spent $2.3 million. By the way, the next transaction was $4 million, over $4 million. So it goes from 2.3 million to $4 million on this next transaction, okay? So as I say on my last slide here, what you want to do, well, next to last slide, buy land. You remember the great Will Rogers phrase, buy land because they're not making any more of that, right? Well, it turns out that this place, this digital area, has told us they're not going to do that either. They're not going to make any more land, except that they could do that really, really easily, right? Because it's all digital. So this seems like the craziest thing you've ever heard. If you thought Bitcoin's a little crazy, maybe, the blockchain behind Bitcoin is going to work. Don't know about the Bitcoin. If you thought SPACs were crazy, if you thought NFTs, non-financial tokens were crazy, this might be the craziest thing I've ever heard, okay? And then, you know, many things are not necessarily good or useful or even working. This sounds just like .com. If you remember, we don't know how we're ever going to make money, but we put .com on the end of it and it goes way up in price. That's what this sounds like to me, okay? Last slide. Stay far away from this, okay? I don't have any idea how this could possibly work, okay? I always say don't speculate. I'm sure Paul does too. Don't speculate with more than about 5% of your portfolio, okay? And then finally, if the 1920s is any example, and I think it is, by the way, I think history does repeat itself, at least it rhymes, correct, right? If the 20s are any example, I think it's going to get significantly crazier, okay? People borrowing money to buy stock, municipalities borrowing money to buy stock. That's where we were in the 1920s, okay? So again, how to turn $1 million in real estate to $25 in cash, get into some of this stuff, okay? Everybody?
Wow, what great advice. I love it. And who even knew about this? You know, we have got to get up on all this stuff, everybody. And thank you, Steve, who has introduced us to a number of interesting topics of things we should and shouldn't get into. We're not going to even go there about horse racing. Okay. Now, our third speaker, who really is going to show us how to do something, is Rachel Kearns, who is the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity of Portage County. And Rachel and Camille have got their demonstration all set up over here. Do you think they should walk over and look? Are you going to hold it up?
So my daughter's mortified right now because she's like, I don't want to do it. What I want to tell you guys about is in 1940, my grandma Kemp bought a huge bag of metal and plastic cookie cutters for 60 cents. Those got passed on to my grandma Di Giovanni in the late 50s. My mother and my grandma did these cookies. And then my mother did them with me and my sister and my brother and our friends for years. And then I was blessed. Probably 15 years ago, my mother passed the cookie cutters on to me. And my little girl and her friends and I do the cookies. But the thing that's unique about them is versus traditional cookie cutters is they're called bubble molds. So they formulate, they actually look like things. And so this is a Christmas one, which you can't eat because I've had it since Christmas. This is a clown. And some people say they look like little works of art, but they're really delicious. This is Santa that I'm surprised he made it through Christmas because they get eaten very easily. And then this is a stocking. But the interesting thing is that you can touch them because they're dimensional. So one of the things that I did is we are passing out taste. Do you mind doing that? We have cookies for you guys to taste. They're all Valentine's themed with flowers and things like that. And then I'm going to quickly show you, because I only have a couple minutes, how to do it. But the difference with these cookies, like I said, is they look, you can see they're like in a press mold. And you don't want to use a sugar cookie dough that they use nowadays, which has butter in it, because those soften too much and they spread out so you can't see the design. You want to use a traditional Betty Crocker Crisco sugar cookie recipe, which I'm going to share and we're going to pass on so you guys can have it. And then when you paint the cookies, you have to make sure you're using the powdered sugar type of frosting. And sometimes you can doctor it up with the stuff you buy in the store, but it's not as good. So we just paint the petals of the cookies. This is it. I've never done this one-handed, so this is unique. And I'm very detail oriented, as my daughter will tell you. It's probably annoying because I don't want to make any mistakes. You want to do the leaves? And so when we are, use the green for the leaf. Oh, she's doing a good job. And then to do the, if you need to make a color, you just add traditional food coloring to it, which we'll put in the center of the cookie. I just made this frosting sitting here. Actually, well, we were doing it because you just use powdered sugar and you just use water. And like I said, if you want to doctor it up, you can. Now, some of the frostings are good to get the cookie frosting. People make a huge mistake and they buy cake frosting for their cookies, which smears and blends and isn't good. But the sugar cookie ones, can you open this for me, honey? You hold the microphone so I can talk into it. So Camille just did the flower petals. It doesn't bother you. Set it open. So this just quickly is a flower. Thank you. Quickly, this is a flower, and the cookies that you have passed around, we did yesterday. So that's it. If you want the recipe, like I said, we're going to send it out. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
My question is, how many of these do you make at Christmas time?
8 dozen. Approximately about 8 dozen, because I give them as gifts and, people look for them when they come over.
I bet they do. And Camille, you enjoy it? Good. Oh, I think they're works of art. What does everybody think? I don't know if the people at home really saw them, did they? Where is the camera? Yeah, right. Are you going to hold? Did they see him, Dave? Okay. Oh, Dave showed him one in the back room. Okay, that was a good idea. And the recipe we will put on the Rotary reminder, okay? Because that's key to the success, I think, right? And it's Crisco. Crisco. All right. Well, thank you, Rachel and Camille. That was wonderful. And our final how-to presenter today is none other than Tom Hatch. Tom Hatch, the Renaissance man, has had a long career. He's now retired, and he has 26 slides to show you. Here he is, how to build a boat.
In 3 minutes or less. So I think some of you may know that I've been building a boat in my garage for the last year plus. This project started out in the fall of 2020 when I happened to see on my Facebook page, I think, a little video of a small sailboat. And I thought to myself, this is the perfect boat for Twin Lakes. And I had had a boat on Twin Lakes once before, and I'd also helped a friend of mine a long time ago build a boat using a similar style of construction to this one. So I was a little bit familiar with it, but I've never really done anything like this before. So I ordered the boat. It comes in a kit. So maybe your first slide, here's the kit that it comes in. And it really pays to have a friend who has a loading dock. Tom Myers, thank you very much. So I had the boat kit delivered to Tom Myers. I went over, we took it all apart. It comes in a series of, hang on. It comes in a series of 4x8 sheets. Some of it is marine plywood. Some of it is called Advantech, which is used. I'll show you how that's used to create the mold. So we put it all on a pickup truck. I actually lost one of the pieces along the way driving home, had to drive back, pick it up off the road. Glad it was in good shape. It was my first mistake. Okay, Dave. Okay, so the first thing I needed to do was to make some sawhorses. The sawhorses I could buy, I wasn't happy with, so I made these that you can see here because they're really hefty and really sturdy and really square. What you're looking at here is called the ladder back. The ladder back is a horizontal frame into which fits molds. So can I have the next slide, please? So these are molds, and this all comes with the kit, and they're all cut out on a CNC machine, and the molds fit into slots in the ladder back. Can I have the next slide? So here's the ladder back with molds, and the bow and the stern plates are in place already. So the first thing to do after this stage is to set the inner keel. Can I have the next slide? Oh, forgot, this is a good time to introduce Kit Mackey. Kit is a woman from Maine who works for Doug Hyland, the guy who designed this boat. And the kit comes with a series of 20 videos that show you exactly step-by-step how to build the boat. Kit is the person who's building the boat in the videos. And I got to tell you, I think I'm in love. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here I am. This is getting ready to put in the inner keel, which is the first step. What you're seeing here is a little device that is used to bring down that keel and make it right, keep it in the appropriate place without bowing up. Next slide. This is the keel in the process of being installed. And all of these pieces come in the kit. The keel comes in 2 pieces with scarf joints that have to be epoxied together. And then the keel has to be chamfered along the edges. I actually put it through a planer to make it a little thinner than it was to make sure I could properly put it in place. Can I have the next slide? So here it is in place with the outer keel. Now the next step is called planking, and you build. How long would you have been working at this point? Yeah, a year and a half. One of the problems for me was that my garage is not heated. And so I wasn't able to do a whole lot during the cold weather. So I kind of got back into the swing of things in the spring when I could do epoxy and stuff like that. Okay, so here is the next phase. This is planking. This is actually, the planking is all finished. Well, not all finished, but what you see here are 2 different planks. The bottom plank is called the garboard, and the side plank is called the chine plank. And there are 2 pieces to each, scarf jointed together with epoxy. And then everything is glued and screwed, we say, and sanded. So you mix up epoxy with a hardener and with a filler, and screw it all together. You'll also notice that the edge of the chine plank is beveled. And so that's a step you have to take, because the next plank will affix to that. Okay, next slide. Okay, next phase is to cover the bottom of the boat, cover the hull with Dynel. It's a fabric. And then you fill the Dynel with filled epoxy, 3 coats. Next slide, please. So here, it's really hard to do, because when you put the epoxy on the Dynel tends to float up on top of the epoxy, and it's really hard to control it. So I use this technique, which is pour and scrape, to fill that Dynel, all the weave of the Dynel with the filled epoxy. Next slide. So here it is finished, and this has 3 coats of epoxy on it, and I have done a process called fairing the hull, which is making sure that all the curves are right, that the bottom is flat so that you can install the outer keel. Next slide. This is putting in the shear plank, which is the next plank that you put in. Okay, next. Okay, here I have installed the outer keel and the skeg to the bottom of the boat. This is the whole process. I could go on and on for a long time about this, but I won't. Next. Finally, now this is installing the guards on the side. So all of the marine plywood pieces are part of the kit, but some of the hardwood pieces, like the outer keel, the skeg, and the guards on the side, you have to buy. So mostly I have used Douglas fir, because it's a very nice straight grain. And for the skeg, I used a mahogany type of wood called sapelli that is really thick and very straight grained. Next. Here it is. I've done penetrating epoxy on all of the outer elements, and sanded the guards, got it all straightened out. Next. Next slide, please. Next phase is to go black. Next phase is to prime the hull. So this is a coat of primer. It's actually an epoxy type of primer that has a resin and a hardener to it as well. So it adds waterproofing. Next, here the boat is painted, and just a word about paint, boat paint. I got this paint from a company called the George Kirby Paint Company in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It was a company founded, New Bedford was a place where a lot of boats were made. And the George Kirby Company was founded in 1846 to make paint, especially for boats. And this past summer, I was in New Bedford, and I got to go to the place myself. It's a hole in the wall, and George Kirby's great-grandson was there, and he mixed my paint for me. And the cool thing, when you buy paint from the George Kirby Company, you get one of these cool hats. Okay, next. So now you get to flip the boat, and the real work begins. Okay. Here, this is my son Josh. He's cutting a hole in the, cutting a slot in the keel for the dagger board. Next. Here the interior of the boat. I have installed all of the bulkheads. You'll notice that there's epoxy filleting, it's called, that goes along all of the seams. And there are holes on either side of the keel so that water can pass through all of these compartments. So this is forming the compartments in the boat. There is an aft compartment with a seating and a hatch. There's a central compartment and a forward compartment. Okay, next. How am I doing? Here I am building out the slot for the dagger board. Here I am building out the mast step and mast plate. These are the two things through which the mast will sit. Go ahead. This is the boat with all of the interior pieces dry fit in place. So what I have done, this is pretty much where the boat is right now, although I've taken all of these pieces, the hatches and the seats to my basement, and I'm currently painting all of them, epoxying, priming, and painting all of these pieces. Next. I still need to do the inwales, which are, these are called knees, and I've made the knees and I have to install them on each of the four corners of the boat. And then I put in solid wood, what are called inwales, to create the edge of the gunnel of the boat. Okay, next. Here's the boat. This is not my boat. This is a guy who actually finished his already. It's kind of a fun thing because there are certain people, there are like 5 or 6 people who are doing this boat that also communicate with each other. So I can go online and I can see, they give me advice and I can see what they're doing and compare. So one other thing I will say is about tools. The tools that you use for this are very, nothing special really, although I have found a place near Millersburg, Ohio. It's called Colonial Homestead. It's owned by this Amish guy, and it's filled with hand tools. And so one of the cool things that I bought there is this. This is my show and tell thing. This is called a spar plane. And notice, if you can see, notice at the bottom of the plane and the blade are curved. And this is used to make a mast. So this is how you turn a square piece of wood into a round piece of wood. I'm in the process of working on the mast right now. And I also need to finish that, and I need to make the boom and the yard for the sail. I've ordered the sail from also another company in New Bedford called Sperry Sails, and the sail is coming in May. And so my goal is to finish the boat when I get the sail.
Oh, Tom, thank you so much. All of us in the Rotary Book Club have kind of followed this along, haven't we, Lang? And it's been fun. When we've met at Tom's house, we've had the tour, and then we always get the update. Well, haven't we learned a lot today? Thank you for your participation, especially to Steve, to Tom, to the 2 girls who braved the storm from Poland, Ohio. Yes, Rachel and Camille. And to Dave Patterson online. It's been a fun month. Thanks so much.
Right. And thank you, Mary Beth. What a great month of programs. She always does such a great month, and I appreciate it. And I will say we'll ask Tom to hang around if people have questions afterwards about how to build a boat. Dave, One more slide. For more information about how to build a boat, you can go to offcenterharbor.com or tomsboat.com. And that's a picture of the guy whose book he reported on earlier this month. And I was going to Photoshop his face on there, but I just ran out of time. So just imagine that being Tom Hatch's face. That was my intention. It is our whatever. We always have a responder to our programs. And today's responder is Sue Hedrick.
Mary Beth, you always do a super job with these January programs. They've been great. And this caps it off. This has been a highlight today. And also thanks to Dave and to Steve and to Rachel and to Tom for telling us how to do cool things, or in some cases, how to stay out of trouble. So thank you all. And the cookies are really yummy. So I'm sorry that all the virtual people don't get to eat cookies, but that's the price you get for coming. All right, thanks again.
All right. Yeah, and if anybody has questions for our speakers, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer them later. It is time to, we don't have it up here, so we're going to have it to do it from memory. This will be a test for you, Bill. It's probably in your booklet. To recite the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?